computer. Aha! Salete! Take a drink, goes for 4 or 5 minutes. Mihi nomen est Stella at Hawk est Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 199.5, a YouTube-only episode for November MMXX. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by the Batman Universe. Batgirl the Oracle is also brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. I actually probably should just have that completely memorized by now, but I just don't. So there you go. So this actually, I'm happy that this guy's on with me. And this was his idea, actually. So first I'll introduce him, and then I'll actually give him some accolades, because normally I don't. But my good friend, my sometimes and current beloved, who knows, former and current, it's Donovan Morgan Grant.
The soap opera, who knows? Like the will they, won't they, that's unending.
Yeah, that is unending. I think so. Yeah, so Donovan is, in fact, even though I try to pretend that he's not, he's my go-to Cassandra Cain guy. And so in trying to organize these particular months, October, November, and then my anniversary and the 200th, I was trying to figure out how I could organize the Cassandra Cain Batgirl so everything could work out. And so I'm like, can I read these before these, even though they're out of order, is that okay? And he thought, no, we can't really do these two issues out of order very much, but why not do a YouTube only special where you're not messing with the episode numbers, because that was one of the main issues. And it also, it's like clickbait for sure. So I thought, you know what, that's a good idea, and we can have fun with it. So thank you for the idea.
Oh, I'm glad you found it acceptable. So many of my other ideas you just tossed in the trash. So
that's absolutely correct. Most of your ideas aren't valuable.
Hey.
Actually, I'm just kidding. It's funny because I actually wanted, and we'll do the what are you wearing segment later on, but I actually wanted Donovan to wear a very particular Spider-Man shirt, and he couldn't find it, and he said, whoop, I guess I gotta go shirtless. And I thought that's got to be clickbait for sure, but clearly he did not follow through on that.
I chickened out.
So we have to talk about something really serious. It might trigger you, so I'm going to show an
I'm triggered on the daily.
I'm going to show you an image, and we're going to discuss this. Okay, hold on. I hope you're prepared. Let me find it. There it is. Share. Why, Donovan? Tell me why. Why did they do this? Why did they think it was a good idea?
Is that why you have your Funko Pops behind you, the Spider-Man?
Yes, PS4? That is absolutely why. And I was annoyed when this came out. I thought, this is terrible. And then there was just a video where they had a tease where it was just a text messaging communication between Miles and Peter, and he shows, like, Peter sends an image of him and MJ, and his ugly mug pops up, and I'm like, why did you do this? And I actually posted on the video, which I don't often on YouTube. I said I freaking hate this redesign, and also thought MJ looked different. And then someone posted.
Yeah, I was gonna pull. I guess Steve. I was just gonna pull that up.
Yeah.
But like I also have the Mary Jane image.
Yeah. So, and then someone posted underneath, and he said, I think that's actually the same image they used from the game where it's the three of them, which was true. I should have downloaded that as well, where it was Harry, MJ, and Peter, and it's like from University Days or something like that. So clearly that's why MJ looks different, but they didn't even make a new image of Peter and MJ. But I really do not like this redesign. Apparently the director is getting death threats, which I'm not going to do that. That's above and beyond. We've talked about this with Harold on The Last of Us, but what do you think about, is it just me that has like a visceral reaction to this? He looks so young, and I really liked the original design. Do you have any thoughts on this?
First of all, it is not just you.
Okay.
The moment I saw that, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me," because let's lay it on the line. He looks like Tom Holland,
Yeah.
and I thought the original design it favored Andrew Garfield a bit. There's elements of both the first two Spider-Man movie franchises in the game. I think some of Spider-Man's body language as he's web swinging reminds me of like some web swinging uh, body language from ASM2. I mean, he doesn't look like Andrew Garfield, but he looks closer to Andrew Garfield than I think he is of the other actors. This one, the smaller eyes, the paler British skin, and the cut of hair, and the thinner lips, he looks like Andrew. He looks like Tom Holland. Now their explanation for this was that for the remaster, they wanted to look closer to the body model for it. But I think it's ignorant to pretend what this looks like. And I'm not saying this as like, some sort of like they did this as a preference thing. I don't think that they did this on marching orders from Marvel because it's still Sony and all that. But the fact remains that like as a result, he looks far too young for Yuri Lowenthal's voice.
Yeah.
And he doesn't match the Spider-Man body model who looks like an adult. He looks like even though 23-year-olds are the way that people have been aging in the last generation or two, they do look young. They do look like they're still in high school. Who cares? Because he looks too young to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've played that, but he was a little farther along in his career as Spider-Man, wasn't he? It's not like it's year one when he was swinging around when we were playing as him.
No, he said he was Spider-Man for 8 years.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking at like, if I wanted to play a game and it was like origin story and all of that, absolutely right-hand side. But the left one, I just felt like it fit the voice. It fit the story that we had. I really liked that original design.
What I particularly loved about this take on Spider-Man in the game, and I mentioned this on your podcast, I mentioned this on my podcast, is that this is a new Spider-Man thing that did not rely on giving us an idea. Oh, he's just starting out, and he's learning this. This is a firmly established new take on Spider-Man that has the weight of the history behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still young. I mean, 23 is not his age in the comics, but like he's old enough to where that's not going to bother you. And this, ultimately, I have to say, like, this is a bummer, and I'm not going to get the remaster just because I don't care to see that.
Yeah.
I can't. It's because I really do believe it's not some sort of like Tom Holland agenda.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he looks like Tom Holland is unavoidable, but I don't think it was intentional as a result.
Yeah.
It just sucks, and people have even said that like he looks younger than Miles Morales, and it's just like, okay, well that's a problem. So I hope he doesn't look like that in the Miles game.
I feel like he may, if that video is any indication that he's. I mean, I don't know how big a role Peters is in the Miles Morales game coming up, but just from that they had that interaction and he sent that photo and that's there. I mean, I don't know if that's in the game or just like a little tease to get us excited for Miles, but same. I mean, I'm super excited for Miles, but like this brought it down a bit. I was like, do I really have to look at this guy's face, the entire time? So
it's weird because this Yuri Lowenthal, but it's almost like he's been recast.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
Anyway, you know what we said? We said betrayal.
We do. I do feel betrayed. I mean, there are times that, fans and getting angry at things, I'm like, oh, it's okay. But I am angry and I want them to turn it back. But I'm not going to send death threats. I mean, it's
that's hilarious.
A video game. Yeah. So, and I saw on the tweet that I think he said, like, I know you love the game, but you don't need to send death threats. And then Neil Druckmann of Naughty Dog had said, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, since he went through it. So
not so funny now, is it?
Now that everyone knows. Well, that was my trigger. I couldn't believe it. I mean, now, because this will be later in November, so it's a bit obsolete. Hopefully we'll both be playing the Miles Morales game and we'll know. But if this is just something that popped up, I wanted to talk to you about and thought it would be better in person than via text. So
yeah. It's irritating because before this, the discussion for the Miles Morales game that I was finding myself surrounded by was like his haircut. There were so many jokes online about how much of a better haircut he had that I thought it was funny, and now it's like Peter Parker's face. And it's just like, well, there goes my joy.
Yeah, interesting.
My
I didn't catch that his haircut was different. I'll have to look
Yeah,
up the.
it's he has a tighter edge up. It's less nappier, and like a lot of Black Spider-Man fans were just making it was really funny. They were making a lot of
Okay.
memes about this how much better he looks.
Okay. Do you think it's, I mean, would it make sense that he would trim it up because he's got to now stick it under a mask? So it's like less, he would have to
I mean,
have less
maybe.
hair potentially.
I imagine he's older in this game. Imagine it's not like the next day. I imagine it's like at
Yeah.
least a year or two. Also, I mean, like people brought up in Spider-Verse how his huge hair in that film sticks under his costumes. Like I was like, oh yeah.
Just put it in there. Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we could talk about that. One other thing to talk about, and then we'll do the Find Your Joy segment, which is your, Shag's mac and cheese covered in joy, your BFF Shag. I recently talked with Scott Larson, who we know from Spider-Man Crawl Space. I don't know if you remember him, but he's also the creator of a comic called Visitations, which is going through Chicago's history through the eyes of its oldest residents from a cemetery. They're dead residents, basically. And he wanted to interview me just about, being a fan and creating podcasts and everything. And something that was interesting that he talked about is we were talking about writing and, comic writing, and just that sometimes it's hard for me to read what's currently going on. And he said something along the lines of writers need us to either hate or love their material, but never be bored by it. And I wondered what you potentially thought about that. And if you think, because when I was thinking about that, I thought, wow, that's kind of how I feel with this current Batgirl run, is that I'm not liking it, but I'm also bored just because I feel like I'm on repeat and seeing the whole thing. Would you agree with that statement that these opposing feelings are fine because it's getting some sort of reaction and people are engaged, but the bored is what writers never want?
I think I would not put it as such a time. Like I would not present it in that kind of an ultimatum because a lot more things are on a spectrum as I grow older that I realized than I initially thought. Like for instance, they tried a lot of new things. Trying to stay on Spider-Man. They tried a lot of new things with Brand New Day for Spider-Man. I mean, you cannot
Sure did.
put your hand on your heart and say that they didn't. There was a lot of like retro stuff, but they were trying new things. Slott did a lot of new things to him, and I can't not appreciate that as an aspiring creative. I didn't like much of it, but like I couldn't tell you that it's boring because of this, that, and a lot of it was kind of repetitious.
Mm-hmm.
But I would agree with you in that like this. First of all, this current Batgirl run is horrible. Great googly moogly, but like it's also I find it. I don't know if I find it is almost boring because a lot of it is aggressively cliched, like the melodrama and the emotional piece that they go for, like oh, she's having tension with her father, and oh, people don't trust Batgirl. I mean, I always ask this. I don't know what they expect how they expect the readers to respond. Are they going to feel bad for her? Are they going to feel bad for James because he's dead? It's like because those emotions that you're trying to bring out from the reader feel that like they're on order. Like you're expecting them to kind of come down the conveyor belt and arrive at a certain destination. And ideally, whether it's a positive or negative reaction to someone's writing, it's at least a surprise. And I'm not a professional comic writer.
Yeah.
But seriously, we've seen a lot of this before.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of this before, in the 70s and 80s with her. And I think that, I mean, I've said this for years, even after Rebirth, that with Batgirl and Barbara Gordon, it's just a case of them just not knowing who the character is and how to continue on as her. And I think that they're running into that. And I think that to the point where they're now recognizing that.
Yeah. Here's hoping. As of this, I guess, release of this particular video, 50 will have already come out and I will have reviewed it. And so I guess we'll see what happens. But
I hope it's going to be good.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
I know it won't be.
No, well, I guess we'll see. Well, this is we're now moving on to the Find Your Joy segment, which is Shag's mac and cheese of comfort and joy. And as of this recording, we still have the same president, but as of this, what will be this posting, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I know. The suspense is killing me.
The last time I see Donovan on screen. I don't know. Anyway, so in this turn, what is going to be bringing you joy, or what currently brings you joy in these troubling times? You did say you
Well,
get your daily.
well, the first joy I felt was voting because I felt power there. And if you want to feel as powerful as I did, go out and vote if you're eligible. Um, I just finished this, and I don't believe that I've mentioned before. Is this different than the anime segment?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
But
yes,
well,
so
I don't have the anime segment, so you can this time, so you can say it.
this is kind of like what the kids are watching, and or I guess what the kids are watching Dr. Stone. I'm not watching that, but like I kind of caught up to the race on this. My Hero Academia is a really fun show, and I kind of like been watching this throughout the year, and now I've completed season 4. The manga is continuing, and I plan on continuing that. I really like that show. It's about a world in which superheroes exist, like a comic book. But if you're born with superpowers, you can go to a school, kind of like Harry Potter, and learn to become a superhero. And it's fun. It kind of actually reminds me closer to Hey Arnold, because the more that you learn about the different characters and how quirky they are, I'd say quirky. I mean, they call their powers quirks in the series. If they got, you grow to enjoy them, and they have great fight scenes. They have very inventive villains, and it's a really, really pleasant show. It's not like, I mean, it's action packed. It's not, it's not something that's like a little too namby pamby for me. But there's not a lot of fan service, surprisingly. I mean, there's some, but like there's not. It's not like Kill la Kill,
Yeah.
which shouldn't bother me.
I know there's
Um,
one like sexist character because I remember my senior 2 years ago did her senior thesis on anime and mentioned like a negative aspect of it and said there's one like guy that ogles women, but he's shamed because of it. So it's like there's a
yeah,
lesson there.
yeah. He's like, oh, I want to see the girls in the locker room, but like he's always like he doesn't really do anything. Um, One of my favorite characters is the half girl, half frog character, Froppy. She just
Oh,
makes me laugh. She has these big bulbous eyes and a huge tongue. But it's very interesting, and you explore ideas like what if there's like a hierarchy of popular heroes, and what if one hero retires? What if one of the most popular heroes is actually an abusive father?
hmm.
What if somebody wanted to be a hero but sucked at it as a career and ended up being a villain? Like I just really enjoyed it, and like spoilers for like our end of the year discussion, but I plan on talking about it at the end in the last month of 2020 and going Q&A, just because like a lot of popular anime shows I don't automatically like. Like I never got into Naruto, but like this was something that like I was eventually recommended by, and I over the course of time I really did enjoy it, and I'm glad I like it. I'm a fan of it, and I'm anxious to see what happens next. And I would recommend. I think your listeners and you would enjoy it. I think it's that kind of vibe where it's a very appealing show that has universal appeal.
So I have two comments.
What
Well,
do you mean two?
yeah. So first of all, you know who else likes this show?
Shag.
No.
Oh, good.
Well, I don't know. He may. Spoiler kid.
Oh! I bet he does.
So
Yeah,
now
no,
you
I
have
figured that.
something in common with Spoiler Kid.
Yeah, something
Number
comes with the
two,
Zoobers.
you're telling me that at least one time a year you do actually answer a question on your show.
I never said literally we just don't answer questions. I know that's in the trailer. We when we're angry we answer the questions.
Okay.
So
Oh man. Okay. I have, there's certain things that I like to brag you on. There's
yeah,
just
you keep on ragging me. You're disinvited from the next episode this week.
oh no. It's our first throuple date. I'm super excited about it.
I know.
Me
I'm
and
sure
Harold mixed it.
Harry's out getting
Yeah.
his hair cut and cutting flowers right now.
Oh, okay. And for me, this will be a bit like topsy-turvy, but I just finished the video game Control, which was really interesting. I think it won Game of the Year last year for 2019, but got it from GameFly, so it was one of my recommendations last time. And it was really interesting. It was paranormal. It had like an X-Files Lost feel to it. A lot of the times I had no idea what was going on, but I had a lot of fun with it. And then it started to come together at the end. I was like, oh, I understand what's happening now. But yeah, it was just a real fun ride. And the environment is so rich with not collectibles really, but just like tidbits like tapes and documents and things that you can read and figure out what's happening, which I enjoy. Sometimes it's tedious and sometimes it's not, but it wasn't for this particular game, so that would be that one. Okay, so
Oh,
now
very
we're
cool.
actually doing our main events. So really it's just two parts. So we're going to review Batgirl 19 and Batgirl 20, both from 2001. Cassandra Cain, so we've got our expert on, and he'll either defend it or I don't know. And then the second part is like basically trolling Donovan to the most I've ever trolled him, probably in one segment. And the segment is called Fired or Not Fired. But
The window's right here. I can jump off anytime.
yeah, you're on the second floor. Okay, so we'll save that. We'll get him in a good mood with these comics, and then we'll do Fired or Not Fired. But boy, am I excited about that. Okay. So oh, no. We might not be friends after this. Okay. So
Why do you
Donovan,
say that?
I don't know. I always do, I guess. Okay, so Donovan, I know there's one way that I would not be your friend, that you would like to disown me. And I promise it would never happen. So anyways, Donovan, he's going to take over the synopses. And of course, I'm going to ask him thought-provoking questions on Batgirl. So you are up, sir.
All right. Yeah, and these, I mean, I'll just say right now that both of these are pretty quick stories. So if I seem too hurried, or this seems to cut off quickly, that's because they're very straightforward. Batgirl number 19. There's no innate title in the story, but the cover reads "Nobody Dies Tonight!" Exclamation point. And I'll just kind of block it out on the outline. A man is on death row. A man named Billy Ray Blackwell, and he is on death row for murder. He killed a woman some time ago, and he's in Gotham City. This is the first execution in Gotham City in 20 years. And Batgirl, Cassandra Cain, learns of this as she's like just beating up some robbers in a convenience store, and it's being played on live television on midnight. They're having like live television on midnight, but whatever. It was 2000. So as we, the readers, see the preparations for the execution, we see Blackwell at his final meal. We see the victim's mother arrive. We see the media circus. We see him close into the gas chamber, and all the witnesses arrive. We see the reporters arrive. We see Batgirl rush to the scene, run past the guards, run past the sniper tower, and just as the chamber doors close, little old Batgirl finds herself in the execution chamber, basically measuring the glass with her fingers. Security freaks out and they say, "Get her out of there," and then beat her up so we can do this all over again. But naturally, Batgirl finds a way to break through the glass, take out some of the guards, and lead Blackwell out of the execution chamber. He asks, "Are you springing me free?" She says, "No, but nobody dies tonight." So, as Batgirl is escaping with Blackwell, she runs into the mother of the victim, and the mother tells her to stop. "That man murdered my baby. You put him back there." You can see Cassandra's facial expression through the mask and the way that Scott illustrates it. He says, maybe he's changed. And the woman says, "Maybe he did, but my little girl is still dead." And in the next page, this is important to note, we see a flashback of Cassandra committing her only kill when she was 8 years old. And we see what I have to imagine is a date, 8/8, August 8th, I imagine. So I have to imagine that this is the anniversary of the time where she committed her first kill. So Batgirl is just outside, left alone, as the execution commences, and Blackwell suddenly finds a start of fright, and as the gas enters the chamber, he presumably is executed, and that is Batgirl 19.
Thank you. That's
You're
a
welcome.
good pull, because I was trying to figure out why they zoomed in on that 8/8. I wonder if there's any indication about date.
There's honestly, and feel free to take a point off. I've read this issue a lot because these issues can be confusing. I don't believe there's a reference to that date elsewhere in the comic. I just have to imagine that that's what that means.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I even tried to find like future letters pages, and they don't address
What
it.
the 8/8 was. Okay, yeah, so let's talk about the cover first. We'll go cover, and then I would like to talk to you about the sort of the color wash, because I've asked that about two other people as well. So yeah, what do you think about this particular cover? I don't need to describe it since people can actually see it here, but nobody dies tonight.
Honestly, I'm not crazy about it, because what it is a recreation of panels we see, like literal recreation of panels we see in the comic. Like the third panel is the last panel in the issue. The top panel is an opening panel of Batgirl in the convenience store when she learns of the execution in between police, and the middle panel is I don't know if that's actually redrawn, but that is what we presume to be the victim of Blackwell. Right. That we see a brief 4-panel red flashback of that killing in the first page. So there's some. I mean, like, I love Damian Scott, but I don't love that it's basically a clip show of the issue that we'll read later on, and something about that doesn't sit right with me. So I'm not loving it. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I would agree that it's not as attractive, perhaps, or compelling necessarily. Well, I don't know. On the outside, I do sometimes like when the cover actually does show us what's going to happen. Maybe not as explicitly as this, because I haven't seen this sort of thing since like the Silver and Bronze Age, where they literally take a page out of there. But it's rather different for Batgirl, because the previous issues I feel like that we've seen, she's holding a cape. You kind of have to really figure out like what's the symbolism of this compared with everything else. So there's more left open to interpretation. So I'm a bit back and forth on it. I would agree that it's probably not the most attractive cover that I saw. I think maybe it is a bit, engaging, just like what's with that guy down there, and is this woman also, she may die, and here is Cass running towards that. Yeah, I don't know. But I would agree with you that it's not as attractive, or perhaps leaves things open to interpretation as much as previous issues.
Yes.
Okay. So then I've asked this question of other people, just with like the coloring and the different color washes that we see often with this particular book, not just this issue, but here even we have a muted tone. I wouldn't even say it's sepia, but it's clearly different than when we go to the next page where it's more bright. But there are other times where just the colorist will completely wash things out, maybe in red or purple. Happened or will happen soon in a future episode that I'm going to do. But what are your thoughts on the use of color in this particular book? Not only just this issue, but as you've seen it and your experience with Cass.
Well, I like. For one thing, it kind of recalls a common compliment of like All-Star Superman. Have you read All-Star Superman?
I have.
The whole this is the best way to tell his origin. 4 panels, doomed planet, scientist, spaceship, kindly couple, 4 panels. This is very, very, the top 3 panels are connected by the arm. Obviously, it's the murder of the woman. You see, you don't need. And I hope you don't ask this. You don't need more information than what they give you.
Oh, gosh.
Where we don't know if she was a worker at a fast food restaurant. We don't know if he knew her. We don't know if he's a serial killer. The fact of the matter is that this young woman was strangled to death by a guy with an anchor tattoo on his left thumb knuckle, and we immediately see that in the present tense. In a jail cell about to be executed. You don't need narration. You don't need dialogue. The art tells the story, and that's the first page we see. That's a page of murder, presumably on the same date, because at the end of the story, where we see the flashback to Cassandra's kill, granted it's 5 panels, but we do see a similar overlaying theme of a red color, and that to me is like comic books at its finest. And I for that kind of visual connectivity, I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. I would agree that this issue, and then I think in particular 20, for me personally, I really like the art and how it's choreographed almost, and the layouts for sure. So I agree with
Damian
you.
Scott, that's awesome. Damian Scott, like his artwork has rapidly changed throughout the year. I mean, he's stayed on this title. He has the same inker, But if you compare this to the first like 3 or 4 issues of Batgirl, or even the Shiva storyline,
Mm.
or even issue like 17, which we've not gone over, it's different. Like it, it's kind of evolving to the graffiti storyline. He's still very detailed, but the characters are very, very stylized, and I do like it. But it's not. If you compare this to any other artist, I don't know if there's any other artist that their style had changed so rapidly in such a short amount of issues as Damian Scott. But it's still great.
Yeah, absolutely. My other question before we actually get into the story is you mentioned that it was titleless, and I feel like you had talked about this prior, but it's only come to my attention in recent issues that there often are not titles with these stories. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know anything about that, or do you have any thoughts or opinions on that? Because I feel like we're so trained now that we expect to read an issue, and then when we get to the credits, it's such and such number and then the subtitle of whatever the story is. But here it's, we actually don't need it in my opinion, but I'm still sort of training myself to not look for it. But do you have any knowledge as to why Puckett did this or did not do it, I suppose, as the case is? And then do you have any opinions on it?
I have some guesses. Like this is 2001, I imagine. Oh, it has to be
Yeah.
2001. This is this post No Man's Land era of the Batman comics. Danny O'Neill is not the editor, so the normality that you had throughout, like the '90s Birds of Prey comics and Nightwing and Detective Comics, it's not that. Now Chuck Dixon is still writing a lot of the comic books. If you read Nightwing, Robin, or Birds of Prey at this time, those comics do have titles.
Mm-hmm.
But off the top of my head, I don't remember if that was the same for like Gotham Knights, if that was the same, if that was the same for Gotham Central, or the Greg Rucka or Ed Brubaker stuff. I
Yeah.
don't remember if they're titles, but concerning this series, I think it's great because the theme of Batgirl is silence. The silent night,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that she rarely talks and she doesn't know how to talk in the beginning. So it really is, and that's why I loved that detail at the end of 13, one of your favorite issues, where the sniper's asking, "Who are you?" and she just waves, and you see like the Batgirl logo. That to me is like who cares about a title when you have like just visual storytelling? So I think I don't remember if it was a trend for the non-Chuck Dixon comic books, but because I think that 20 actually has a title, but I think it's absolutely appropriate for this. No, it doesn't. I think it's absolutely appropriate for this series. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I'm training myself to to not look for it. But I agree with you. I think it speaks for itself, the symbols there. And also, yeah, like you said, the silent, that she is mostly silent. There's not much dialogue. There's more in the next issue, which was kind of weird. I almost chalk it up to Chuck Dixon being the guest writer, but
You
here
must.
she barely says much. And so, for someone who does not speak as much, does she really need a subtitle? Which is interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing, does that change once she speaks a little bit more, or does that stay consistent throughout the
Yeah, I
entire
get that in the
book?
next issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with my controversial questions. No, I don't think they are. Well, first of all, let's see here. We'll start with it. Do you think she there are so many layered questions to this, but
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, what is her motivation for getting Blackwell out? Does she understand why he is going to die? And is she saving this man more for her benefit than necessarily for his? So a couple questions all with this. Does she understand what's happening? Is she trying to save him more for her benefit because it is resonating with her history?
I mean, I have my opinions of this, and when I'm done ranting, I hope I'm not gonna rant, but when I'm done with this, I would like to know if you agree with it or disagree with it.
Okay.
But I think that like I really resented it in Batman and Robin Eternal when Tim Drake like poked at her nose and said she thinks like a child. But I do think there is a kind of naivete with Cassandra just because she was on her own for like her adolescence. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are things that she honestly does not know. It's not a lack of intelligence; it's a lack of education. And I think when you're running around with a bunch of crime fighters whose rule is they don't kill, that can be confusing for somebody who's so traumatized by killing somebody.
Hmm.
So I think naturally she thinks that just the act of killing somebody is wrong, and she's there to stop that from happening. Because if you notice in the convenience store battle, she prevents the cops from shooting them.
Right.
Like she stops them, but she also like pushes. I think she throws. Yeah, she stops a cop. It's in the next page.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. She stops a cop from shooting a perp, which he probably would have legal right to do, or maybe not if any current news is any indication. But I think that that's just burned into Cassandra's DNA. So when she sees that like this criminal is sentenced to die, she's like, okay, this is now my mission. Additionally, she's in her feelings because she knows the dates, or at least it's implied that she knows the dates. So she feels, and this is also a theme that is going to recur in this series. If she, who was a killer, can be redeemed, then other bad people can be redeemed too. And the comic book is very aware of that not always being the case, or even questioning, is that true or is that not? So she hopes that he can be, but that's not her call to make because she doesn't really know him. So I think that like it's all about her understanding her connection to death and justice, and how that is kind of at a tension with everyone, like with societies or the legal system or everyone else's. And I think that it's just a matter of just honest confusion on her character's part. And we're seeing how far she takes that no killing code to be. Because, you know, with Batman, who's an educated adult, it honestly varies from writer to writer. Like, you know, there are some stories where he's perfectly fine with like arresting somebody and then going on to the death penalty. I mean, there's a couple of versions of Tony Zuko where he was sent to the electric chair. But also there's times where like Batman will prevent cops from killing crooks as well. So like it's inconsistent. But with Batgirl, especially with Kelly Puckett as the sole writer, you're seeing this development track from one end to another, where you're seeing she prevents the police from firing criminals, and she's preventing the legal system from executing a killer who's been on death row for, who has to be, I have to imagine, a few years. And this is kind of showing how Cassandra as a character does not complement her seeking justice does not complement legal justice. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. And I want to get back to that because I actually have a question about racial injustice and Cassandra
great.
in the next issue. Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. And with Cassandra, I feel like she's an extreme character in that. And I mean this positively, that when she goes for something, she goes all the way 100%.
Yes.
And so if she's told, you know, these are our bylaws, human life is so you know, I'm trying to think of the word, but you know, something that we need to preserve and protect, and no killing, then she's going to absolutely go for that. I will say she doesn't do it all the time with like reading and learning things. She's not all 100% of the way, but I can totally yeah, I can totally see that that is the reason why she's acting in this way. I do also think that she is a bit naive, because I think she heard that news story and perhaps she just saw, you know, he's dying at midnight, and that was just really shocking for her, and she might not necessarily understand, you know, the criminal justice side of it. Yeah, but for the most part, I would say that I agree with you. I think some things are wrapped up in this. I think whether or not the date is the date that we think it's happening, I think the fact that we see her past and she was given a second chance, why can't this guy be given a second chance as well? I think that's really big for her. But I also feel like it's really ironic looking at this whole run, and I pointed this out in the previous episode that you mentioned, that you gave me points for. It's ironic that the man who I hesitate to say deserves, but he, you know, it'd be okay if he died. Like that was just the way things were gonna go. That was the way things were gonna go. She's like almost on the threshold of saving him, and then the three people that were innocent, you know, and did not deserve it, unfortunately got killed. So I thought that was a bit ironic. But here again, you know, another person we could tack on, that she tried to save him and then she died. I don't know what it is about that. Like it's starting to rub me wrong, that it's just like, is she failing? Why are the writers doing this? Can she just not save these people and they not die? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this? Why does this keep happening to her?
I mean, I think it's a little harsh to say that she's failing because,
Well, they're dead.
well, I mean, but like everyone's failed to save somebody.
I suppose that's true.
But especially because she's new at this. Like at this point,
Yeah.
what she is perfect at is fighting. You know, she's not a detective yet. She's not you know, she's not even great at protecting herself. So not only do I think that, like, because I know that you have a problem with, like for instance, if someone gets powers and they instantly know how to use it.
Yeah.
I think it's fine that, like, I mean, she always tries her best. I think it's fine that, like, she doesn't always succeed because she kind of throws herself into odds that she can't really overcome. But I always kind of see this as kind of like, you know, the development in you know, sharpening of her as a crime fighter. So like, I don't necessarily see her as like, you know, oh, well, she sucks because she can't save these people, because that's a little harsh. but it's also like just kind of laying out, this is the character, and this is what she throws herself into, and this is how it logically works out. Just because she can punch her way through anything doesn't mean that everything can be punched through.
Yeah. You know who else tried her best and some people died?
Barbara Gordon. No, Huntress.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, who cares about Huntress?
Oh no. Oh,
I guess Mike Staley does, but you know, I don't run that podcast.
oh boy. Okay. Talking about Blackwell just for a moment, and I think this important panel of her saying,
Maybe
maybe
he's
he
changed.
changed. Yeah, maybe he did, ... Do you feel, I don't know, what gives her a sense that he may have changed? Is it just her hope that, you know, give him a chance? Because he's just eating his French fries. He doesn't give any last words really to the father. It doesn't seem like he shows any remorse. I mean, there he's kind of looking maybe like he feels bad. But I don't know. Is it just her like good heart and her hoping maybe for herself that, hey, I've changed and give me a chance?
Yeah, I think it's very, very like reflective on her hope for herself, because and this lasts throughout the whole series. Like she just doesn't. It's hard for her to, you know, run around with the Bat family and, like, you know, because none of the Bat family have her kind of baggage, so she kind of looks up to all of them. It's hard for her to kind of see that. Oh, there's a great issue later on where, like, she has this like nightmare and like they're all like giants and stuff. Maybe it's
Oh,
coming
I
up pretty soon.
covered that, or I will cover it because it's already
Ooh.
recorded. Yeah.
Oh no, but like um, she's holding herself up to a standard, so she hopes that she can be good, and if she can be good, perhaps he can be as well. Unfortunately, you know, like there's a difference between, oh, I'm 8 years old and some guy told me to kill somebody and I did not know what that means,
Yeah.
and I'm strangling a girl at McDonald's. Like that's, it's like that those details haven't really occurred to her, and so she's throwing herself in a situation that she has no business being in, really.
Do you remember, I believe it is issue 16, where this scientist is experimenting on people and messing with like brain waves, and they come up with a simulation with their brain and it makes them kill or to decide to kill. Do you remember this? And so it happens to a priest, a soldier, and then her.
Yes.
And we're told that for her, it took like barely a blink. It was very
Yeah.
quick. And so she's haunted by this, that like that killing instinct is there. Do you think that's something that she is going to be continue to haunt? Like, is that something that might be informing this issue and what she's doing here and her actions here as well?
That's Batgirl issue 15, but yes.
15. Okay.
Well, yeah, because like it's not one of those things where, like, you know, Batman's punching at somebody. It's like, no, if I punch him one more time, I'm no better than they are. Like that kind of like very badly written kind of thing. It's much more like psychological. Like she's not going to have a problem beating up a bunch of criminals and not killing them because she's skilled enough to do so, and she's not particularly mad. But like when it comes to like you know, kind of considering the nature of people, she's less confident and less sure about that, because all she has to do is, all she bases that off of is like, you know, who she is. So that's what I think. That's what a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, what would I do? Can I sympathize with somebody? Can I empathize with this action? And so her, with her limited engagement with different kinds of people, especially like, you know, in a criminal set, I think she just kind of bounces that off of herself. And if this guy deserves to die, does that automatically mean that she deserves to die? And I think that's what she's wrestling. When the last time you see her in this issue where she's has a mask off, I think that's what she's wrestling with.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what role redemption has to play in Gotham City. And this almost goes back to the discussion I had with Sam Heath on our politics, where religion's not really talked about in Batman comics. And
No, not really.
the essayist pointed towards like media is the big thing. Everyone believes media wholeheartedly, and it's because they don't have the clubs or religion or politics or things like that. But yeah, I just wonder, would it, yeah, is redemption possible in Gotham? I think maybe it's almost as if like some of these characters that, I think about Batman and he constantly tries to help Harvey Dent out, or here we have Cassandra helping somebody out. Like maybe those are our, I don't know, Christ-like figures that they believe in humanity. At least they believe that humanity can be better. And so they're the ones that are like offering that. But then the people of Gotham may not necessarily believe in that redemption. I don't know.
There is this Black Label Harleen book
Oh,
by Stefan Sejic. He's like a Nordish artist.
okay.
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Okay.
But there's a cool moment. It's another Harley Quinn retelling, but there's a cool moment where she's asking Batman, why don't you just kill your villains? They always cause you
Mm,
trouble. And he says, well, I don't kill first because I don't. That's my personal code. But he also works to believe that they can conquer their own demons like he's conquered his.
mm,
And I think that that's a similar thing where, because there's a lot of, and this is like psychology 101 when it comes to Batman comics. There's a lot of like reflective psychology and like how different is the Riddler the representative of Gotham's Batman's like intelligence side? Is Two-Face representative of the duality of like the good and evil forces in Batman? Is a calculator the dark side of Oracle, like that kind of thing? That stuff happens all the time. So which I think makes sense because in comic books, supervillains and superheroes, you can't say they're opposite sides of the same coin because that coin is very thin.
yeah.
Those sides are closer than I think most writers tend to realize, but they do come around back to it every now and then. So if issues like this where you have, granted, a trained assassin turned superhero and just a run-of-the-mill, guy who killed somebody in a fast food joint, if she feels a connection to him and his destiny is to be executed for his crimes, she's feeling really, really low, and she
Mm,
doesn't feel like a crime fighter. She doesn't feel like such a hero anymore. Even though there's no earthly way she should really connect herself with him, but of course that's not how she sees it.
yeah. Yeah. I think perhaps in this issue she learned some of her limitations and that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Those are all the questions I had. Was there anything else you want to discuss on this particular issue?
These are great panels. I first started noticing this when not Chris Burnham. It was Frank Quitely's doing this on the Grant Morrison Batman and Robin book. But there's a page where she breaks out of the. First of all, I like when she's in the gas chamber, and Batgirl's kind of like, oh, look at this. Like she's kind of like feeling around the glass, like that made me
Yeah.
laugh. But like,
Testing it out.
well, yeah, she's like you don't see her thought process, but she's kind of like feeling out, like, huh, this is kind of fun. Like I don't know. It was like she was in some sort of like kiddie ride or whatever. But when she bursts out, the glass spells crash, and
Mm,
you gotta love that. That's
yeah.
great. That's great artwork. Um, but my last question is, did you like this?
I did like it. Yes. I read this and 20 on my lunch break today, and I did enjoy it. I mean, at first, I will admit to rolling my eyes a bit when she went for him, and it was because I guess I was getting a sense of Batman. Like if Batman were doing this, I would have rolled him harder. But I
Sure.
just thought like, what right does she have to sort of mess with the criminal justice system? But then as you go through and you recognize, and I think that moment, honestly, my favorite part of it is that moment with Blackwell, Batgirl, and the mother. I think that just like sums up the entire issue for me, anyways, and just what all three of these people are, what their place is currently, and what they have gone through. Um, so I went to a better understanding, but one of my questions initially was just what right does she have to potentially free a prisoner? Because if it was someone else that I don't know. They've been kidnapped and the noose is going to drop at midnight or something like that. Like, absolutely. But here, this is like, oh, why are you going for this guy when due processing? And apparently, it was just an important case that they were bringing out the gas chamber after 20 years of it being inactive, which kind of seemed big to me. So,
I think that's realistic. I often hear of like, oh, there's decades since this state's last committed execution, and we're doing like that. That felt.
But in
That didn't feel like
Gotham City,
well, yeah, everyone has this sort of like plea of insanity going on, but
yeah.
I know.
Oh man. So yeah, I did. Shall we rate it?
Yes.
What should we say out of 10 broken gas chambers? What would you give this?
Either that or 10 French fries, but broken gas chambers are probably better.
Okay. So out of 10 broken gas chambers, what would you give this?
Okay, that's a very solid 8.5.
Oh my goodness!
What?
As I live and breathe, people. Okay, I will agree with you and give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 broken gas chambers. As you live and breathe now. Okay, so now we're getting into a huge issue. Not their first team up, but their first official, I suppose, team up of, well, I shouldn't say that, not their first meeting, but their first official team up, and especially in the book.
Right.
So we are Batgirl 20.
Spoiled. So because I'm on DC Universe, and I thought there was a title in like the credits page, but there's not. At least not on my copy. So yes, this issue sees Batgirl intercepting what she assumes is a basic like kind of hold up by some local toughs and a guy carrying a burlap sack.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out the guy has guns. A gunfight breaks out, and Cassandra somehow survives in the middle of being a gunfighter while everyone else is dead. Whoops. And she picks up the burlap sack, which is filled with thousands of dollars.
Hermes burlap sack. Those are like high quality. I didn't even know they made little sacks of Hermes. But anyways, continue.
Yes, indeed. I said thousands. There's $1 million. There's $1 million cash in there, and so she picks up a blood-eaten note. She knows that obviously there are words on there, and that's where her skills kind of fail her. So we next see the home of the cherubic sleeping Stephanie Brown. So she wakes up Stephanie Brown, who she knows is the spoiler, as per her inner monologue, and kind of commands over and over again, read this. So it's like, oh, okay. Stephanie starts asking questions because she you sound like a dog.
Well, I mean, when someone pops into your room at night, I would ask questions too. Tim asked questions when Shiva popped in.
Oh, well, yeah. Stephanie doesn't ask those kinds of questions. That'd be just bizarre. What is she?
I'm sure somebody ships this.
Oh, you know. Oh, yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, we can spend the rest of the 3 hours talking about that. Stephanie asks, "Hey, where'd you get this? Why didn't you give this to Batman? What's the dealio?" And Batgirl says, "Let me count this. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 times. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it." Steffi complies. Essentially, it's just a kidnapping plot. Give us the money or your brother dies. And Steph asks, as though Batgirl were Tim Drake, "Hey, can I come along?" And she's like, "No," specifically because she's too slow. But Stephanie says, "Hey, what if I don't read it? You'll never know where the drop is." Yep. So Batgirl's, she failed matching wits there. So Steph grabs her spoiler costume, and away they two go on Spoiler's motorcycle. They meet they arrive at the Trigate Bridge, which is a canonical Gotham City destination, and they find where someone who's the brother of the kidnapped victim arrives at a train station, and he says, my contact got jumped. I don't have the money right now, but I need to know my brother's okay. The messenger for the kidnapper leaves in the train. They notice that the brother arrived in the car, so Batgirl jumps after the car while Spoiler jumps after the train, while we see the brother shot in the shoulder and taken by more of the kidnappers. We arrive at the address of the kidnapper, some apartment or what have you, and it's revealed that Zounds, the person who kidnapped the brother, is the brother himself. Dun, dun, dun. And he says, basically, we get this in one page that they're part of a crime gang or crime family, but he wasn't given as much respect and as much responsibility as the older brother. So he faced his own kidnapping for a ransom. And it's like, dude, our friend got killed because of you. So basically, at one point, the Batgirls. Oh, I'm sorry. I should say Batgirl and spoiler. Kind of throw. They throw the money in the middle of the room. Everyone sees the cash flying around, and a fight ensues. Reminding me of the last issue. At one point, the brother has the other at gunpoint, but Batgirl saves him by bataranging that gun out of his hand, and they take them down. They call the cops, and the night is saved. Would you believe they were all had warrants on them? So they toss the guns. They talk about where to donate the money. Spoiler references her mother by saying, I know an overworked registered nurse who could use $1 million, but I also know a children's hospital that could use it more. Lisai. And they end walking off into the night with spoilers saying, how about a trade, BG? You teach me that trick with a battering, and I teach you how to read. How will that turn out? We'll find out in another story, because this is the end of this one.
Yeah, I mean, the main message I got from this is that maybe it's time for Cass to go back to Babs and learn how to read.
Read!
But
Maybe.
It's bad because, and I'm recording these out of order, but in 16, yes. I think in 16, she had this very same problem where, like, well, a little kid gave her a note and she's like, read it. And yeah, and so it's just interesting, like, yet again, so a case popped up and it necessitates her reading, but she finds another avenue to do it, but I feel like it's time, Cass. It's time to start reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about the cover. So what do you think about this one?
It's good. It's a poster image. It's a splash image, like very dynamic. I like spoilers swinging the grappling line. Batgirl with the batarangs. Batgirl spoiled. I mean, it's solid. Like, there's no reason not to like it, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. I do feel like Cass might be a bit emaciated there. Like, she looks really, really thin, but maybe that's just a big choice there. But no, I like this. I feel like it's very dynamic. And you've got the action behind in the background of actually swinging that hook, which I think is really cool. So I enjoy this one. I like it better than 20 for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the art then. I liked this art even more than 19, and I thought 19 was really good. But just the way, I don't know, the way the sequences were, they were chaotic to a certain extent, but your attention was drawn where it needed to be drawn. Like, even here, I mean, how cool is that? Just with like all these dead bodies and just the what was chosen to be silhouetted and what was not, and the money in the forefront. Yeah, it was just really good. And later on, just a lot of the choreography with the fight scenes. I felt like this was great artistically.
Absolutely. And one thing we mentioned way back when during the Shiva storyline, how Damian Scott is such a good artist that when he draws two Asian characters together, they don't look the same. But like they're distinctively Asian, but they're not just like they either don't like each other or they don't even have the same exact shape of eyes, even the same skin tone, which I think is just brilliant. I'm just occurring now that he's not really one for, like, I want to say fan service, but like like he doesn't draw these two teenagers sleazily.
Yeah.
Like I think Stephanie looks like a real girl. Like, she doesn't look, she just woke up, so she's not looking glamorous or anything. The spoiler's not like, oh, let me look at this clue by bending over or anything like that. Like, I've never actually considered it because nothing's ever made me consider it. But like, as I'm looking at the art, it's just so functional. It's like, this is the art. You need to maximize the action here, tell the story part here, and I don't know. I think Nightwing had Greg Land at the time, and that was much, Greg Land is a certain kind of artist where that's much more traditional. And I think that it's cool that you like the art and you can compliment the art, and at no point do you even need to bring up the fact that it's not, exploitative.
Absolutely. I do have a couple questions just with this reticle, and in the past, the reticle served a purpose, especially for the Agent Johnson storyline. But here, this actually confused me. Like, someone actually notices that they're there, but is it just like an artistic choice of I'm just going to have this, and then the reticle drops down where it needs to be. Did you have any thoughts on that? Is it just me? Is this like a mistake artistically?
I think it's a mistake. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who that is. That's a very good point.
Just like, oh, wouldn't they have shot them right away? But anyways.
Yeah. What if they literally like noticed like, oh, I'm sure they're not after us, and like, because I imagine because like this brother was getting like watched, and at one point he's like, huh, there's Batgirl and spoiler. Now where's that guy? So he just ignores them.
Yeah. Yep.
Oops.
So you mentioned about Scott doing well to be respectful, drawing Asian characters, but also making them distinct. Now, this story is filled with Black characters, which I thought was really great. Would you say that that follows through for him here as well, that he's respectful in his designs of those characters, but makes them distinct as well?
Yeah, I mean, Damien Scott's Jamaican, so like,
Oh, I had no idea.
yes, I've not heard him speak, but like I understand that he's at least nationally Jamaican, and so which is why I think which I think lends to his style, because as it becomes kind of more, and I always say it as kind of graffiti inspired. There's a lot more like almost musical rhythm to the body language, and there's an exaggeration to the body language. Clearly, like when the brothers start yelling at each other, their necks are stretched out and stuff. But at no point does this look like Bebe's Kids or anything. Like nobody looks demorphized or offensive. They look cartoony, but they don't look animalistic. And I think that this comes off natural to him, who kind of he exaggerates body language and even facial expressions, but never to the point where they're dehumanized.
Yeah, and I think this book overall is pretty diverse in its casting of characters, at least racially, because this isn't the first time that we've had Black characters. I think that first gentleman that Cassandra lost, that he was like kidnapped at Blackgate, right? Wasn't he? He was Black, was he not?
Yeah, he and his wife were Black.
Yeah.
I think I remember when she got knocked out by Shiva, the EMT looked like he was of some kind of Asian descent, like, and not through his like his eye shape, but like his skin tone and his kind of like haircut, like and I remember I think I talked about this to the editor Joseph Illich at Comic-Con, because he who's a Black man, the Bat books at the time were very racially diverse, mainly through like the background of characters. And I think that this is a few years where that was an edict where these just looked realistic, and it wasn't just Gotham City, blah 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 blah. And it's like it didn't feel dated. But yeah, this comic book series specifically, it is very 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 replete with people from different backgrounds.
Absolutely. Okay, so with this story, one of the questions actually that Steph asks Cass, I have the same question where she says, let's see here, basically like, why'd you come to me? And I wondered why. Why did you think, where is it here? Where'd you find this? Da, da, da. Why'd you come to me? Yeah. Well, why do you think of all the people potentially that Batgirl could have gone to, she goes to Spoiler, whom she's only met once, and they didn't really have much of an interaction in Robin. But yeah, any thoughts on this?
Well, I have two answers, or I have an answer and a yes. One of the answers is it might have been editorial, because or it might have been like I don't know, maybe Kelly Puckett needed a break, so hey, Chuck Dixon, can you do a fill-in issue? And he was like, oh, okay, I'll just put Spoiler in here, because I don't think Chuck Dixon is very comfortable writing Cassandra Cain. I don't know if he has a great feel for the character. And this comes up later, because like later on, he'll do a 4-parter with Steph, Connor Hawk, and Robin. And I feel that like he doesn't really have a voice for Cassandra, no pun intended, as he does for the other various characters. And so, of course, Batgirl in this one is kind of very, very like kind of cold and like very straight to the point. He knows he created Stephanie Brown. So I think that like if he was kind of given a fill-in issue, it was his idea to do this and kind of make it this kind of inconsequential team story. In universe, I mean, Batgirl was not counting on Stephanie to kind of tag along. She was like, "Oh, read this and then bye."
Yeah.
She probably would have had Oracle needle her about, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then like Batman would have probably like, taken the job away from her. Like, I'll do it. So it was probably just something that she could be convenienced with. Now, my question is like, how does she know where Stephanie live?
Yeah.
How does she know her address? But I'm sure she could find it in her mini Batcave. Like enter spoilers, real name Sophia Brown, daughter of the Clue Master, 510, Lakeview Drive or whatever.
Yeah. For me, the one that makes more sense would have been Tim, just because they literally just teamed up in 18, and that issue ended with them coming to an understanding, or at least Tim better understanding Cass. So that would have been like
Yes.
the go-to. I mean, not saying that I don't love this team up, because I love these two young women
Sure.
together, but that would have like made more sense narratively and timeline wise for me, I think.
Well, in fairness, at this point, he's in Brentwood. He's in boarding school.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He's really far away. She probably didn't have enough time to do that.
Okay. So because you always like to, hound me when I misinterpret things about these.
Yeah, I do.
What do we learn about Cass from this particular issue, this story?
That she's a jerk.
Oh, that she's a jerk?
Yeah.
I feel like, did some sort of Freaky Friday happen?
Oh no, I'm in Donovan's body.
No.
That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of characterization with Chuck Dixon and Batgirl. I mean, I think that he writes her a little too cold, because in the later issue, when they're sparring and stuff, that's written by Kelly Puckett. I mean, she says, you're too slow, but she's not so cold. I mean, she kind of talks to her like Batman, and I get it in one way, but it hits a little too. It's a touch too mean, and this is not something where it's like hard to read or whatever, but it's like it doesn't feel like the same character that I'm familiarized with throughout the rest of the series, where like in that kind of reticle scope panel, spoilers like, what'd you see? And then like Batgirl says, go home. Like that doesn't seem like even though she wanted spoiler to leave, I think she would kind of like express that differently. Maybe not so nice either, but like in a less like Batman-y way. And so I just think this comes down to Dixon. I don't think Dixon connects to the character, and I think that he writes Cass through other people's interpretation. I remember at one point, like later on, I think Connor or Stephanie kind of like makes a dig at Cass, and Robin's like, "Hey," but like it feels really like commenting on sort of like the alien nature of Cass through other characters in a way which I think is a bit of a disservice to the title character.
I do think back to, and I don't remember what Robin issue it was, but it was pretty recent. 89. It might have been a little before that, where they pop up, that Cass pops up, and at this point in time, Stephanie was in fact Robin, and
oh yeah,
Batman tells Stephanie that she could be equal to or better than Tim, but she would not be better than Cass.
Because she's his daughter. That's why.
I guess. But I just wonder if that's like, it's interesting though that Cass, Batgirl, is saying you're slow, but Batman would probably say she's slower, but she's not, I don't know. So it almost is like Batgirl is being more of a jerk maybe than Batman would have been in that Robin title. Just shocking.
I mean, maybe. I mean, obviously.
You said the J word.
Well, obviously, if people listeners don't know, they become like the best of friends.
Yes.
And even in this title, so this is it's not it's a little touchy, but like it's not going to be like this this sort of like punch kiss kind of thing. It's not going to take too long for them to warm up to Stephanie to warm up to Cass, but like here. It was a little odd to see Cass so curt with spoiler.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ending and even the fight scene before the ending, I think you can see already them developing. Like Cass at the beginning begrudgingly allows her along because she's almost manipulated into it. And then Batgirl gives Spoiler a pretty good chance or opportunity, like, you follow the train. Like, she gives her a mission. I don't know if Batgirl's was necessarily more on point with the whole mission or dangerous, but she gives Spoiler a job to do. And then they have a pretty decent fight. They don't get in the way of each other. Spoiler doesn't get into her way. And then they have that bonding moment at the end. So I feel like there's a decent development in just one issue of, you know, these people that are pretty much strangers. Cass doesn't want her around to, okay, we're working this case together if we have to. Okay, maybe you're competent. Okay, maybe we can, like, there's a future for us in a friendship. So I like that it's plotted and develops well.
You know, well, as a Stephanie Brown fan, I mean, she is your favorite
I
Batgirl.
know. I can't believe it.
Well, did you like her in this issue? Did you think that did you enjoy seeing her bounce off the cast in this issue?
I did, yeah. And it's nice to see the beginning of the friendship where I know how it is going to develop. And, you know, she's smart. You know, people, I guess I shouldn't say people, but Batman, you know, is hard on Steph, but she does know what she's doing. And I think she picks up pretty quickly on, like, well, Cass is being a bit cagey. I don't think she can read. She's not going to let me on this mission. I can withhold the information I have. And something that I love about Steph is that she doesn't take no for an answer. She doesn't back
No,
down, and she cares about the mission just as much as everybody else. And I think she's so underestimated that she really has to fight so much harder than everyone else to really get that respect. And I think, you know, getting Batgirl's respect, I feel like she tries to get everyone's respect, but this is a great way. It's almost like go through Batgirl to get to Papa's heart. And it's, you know, it's someone that she can relate to on a female level, I think. And that's why I love this particular relationship.
yeah, I think they're similar ages.
Yeah.
And I mean, Batgirl is not somebody who says I need a partner for this.
Hmm.
Like she doesn't really like, you know, I need to actively recruit somebody to team up with me. She that is not her character. And it's not like, you know, I walk this lonely road. It's kind of like her wanting to go as fast as she can, and it's
Yeah.
kind of her own personal crusade. But when spoiler, like, spoils her way into her plans. It's not like she's like thinking to herself, I hate this girl so much. Like she's like, okay, all right, whatever, do this, do that, do that, do that. And then like by the end, like there's it's like a missing panel of like spoiler, like, piggybacking her way on Batgirl all the way home or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about Stephanie Brown, honestly, that is able to worm her way into people's hearts. I mean, Cassandra, you're saying she's pretty cold here. I mean, she's not the warmest of people. I think she has really brilliant moments of being warm and loving, but she does, I think, keep it pretty close to the chest. But
Mhm.
Damien, like all these people that it's about Steph, you know, that she's able to do that. And I think that's perhaps one of the reasons why Cass starts to blossom as well and perhaps be more open, along with, you know, Batman and Babs as well. But it's always good to have female companionship that's peer age.
That's a good point, because I remember like when Cassandra and Damian meet in Gates of Gotham, like Damian's like, insulting her, and Cassandra just doesn't say anything. Whereas there's that issue of Batgirl and Steph's run where like Steph like got him a bouncy house and stuff.
Yes, it's so great. So my final question on this, and then if you have anything, is controversial. I guess it's real world, but as I was reading this, and I felt like it was the most black characters that I've seen so far in this Batgirl run, and not saying that
Mhm.
it's necessarily a black story, but I just wondered if we were to take Cass out of the comic world and put her in the real world, and this is connecting back to our criminal justice in the previous issue. Do you think she would understand sort of racial, I shouldn't say sort of, do you think she would understand racial injustice and what's going on? Do you think she would have a trouble figuring out how to work with that, especially in this current climate that we have? How do you think Cass would deal with what we see now? Do you think that would be an interesting story?
I mean, the writers don't hardly ever do, but like,
I know.
so it can't be counted on a fictional character. But I mean, I would say we a safe bet that she wouldn't, because not only is she kind of like unfamiliar with certain things and how certain things work, like like trial and like judge, juries, and executions, that kind of stuff like that. But she was like brought up on the other side of the world. Like she wasn't brought
Mm,
up in Gotham. She wasn't even brought up in America. She was brought up not speaking any language, not learning how to read, and her body language is in kind of people's movements, not so much in how they viewed each other, whether that was prejudice through fear or just or hatred, or prejudice just through like presumptions of other people. So I have not read anything where uh, Cassandra has even remarked upon, like there is a really good issue in the final arc of her run where someone asks, well, what is your background? It's a white woman asks, what's your background? And she's like, oh, well, aren't you Asian? And Cassandra has to like stop and like, I mean, it's not a big moment. She's just like, oh yeah, I guess I am. And that's just something that occurs to her because like her sense of self is kind of through her action as a crime fighter and previous
Mm-hmm.
assassin, and not somebody who interacts racially throughout the world. So like for instance, in Batman: The Outsiders, that's a book with Batman and Orphan, Cassandra Cain, and Duke, who's the Signal, and Black Lightning, and Katana, and Lady Shiva. Batman and his bleachings. And
Oh.
and like obviously, I mean, and it's written by Brian Edward Hill, who's a black writer, but like it's not really commented on. There's no real reason for it to be because they're all like fighting Ra's al Ghul. They're not, they're not protesting or anything like that. So it's an interesting question. Like how she's having trouble navigating through various parts of society. How would she navigate through that?
Yeah.
And I think the only time I've ever seen that confronted is near the end of the series, where someone just asks of her, and she had us like, "Oh yeah," I suppose it's almost like she's looking at herself in the mirror for the first time in comparison to somebody else. But like I can't imagine that she would like, you know, like if let's say like Barbara Gordon and Luke Fox were walking down the street, I can't imagine Cassandra would see that and think anything of it, basically.
Yeah. I just, if I were to pull up a scene of just like cops on one side and civilians on the other and fighting, I feel like it would be such this like cognizant dissonance.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Yeah, of like her trying to figure out, do I, because she's so ingrained. I feel like, civilians maybe first and foremost, but I just wonder because she's helping out GCPD a lot, and I know that she knows that Batman trusts Jim, so I feel like that would be really hard for her to understand. It would almost be like a real teachable moment for her, someone to have to teach her.
That's such a great idea, and I think there was a bit of a precedent for it because in issue 13, where she's saving the sniper, like guy goes like, stop, we're the CIA or whatever, and there's a page where she looks at him, she looks back at the sniper guy, she looks at him, and then she knocks him out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if there's oppression going on, she would be inclined to combat the oppressor rather than just, okay, well, there's these guys chasing these guys, especially if there are people who are unarmed being shot at by people who have guns. She's going to go where that fight is. But like, I think that's a really very compelling compelling problem to put in front of her.
Yeah. Ibermex Kendi comes across the panel and starts to talk to her.
Now what you see here, children, is I would love for DC to have the guts to do that, but
yeah,
I bloody doubt it.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be great with that particular character who has no like biases inherently, coming in. Like that would be the person to like really look through her and like, oh, what am I seeing here? And then is there an explanation? But
there was a in Batman 100, there was a short story of like the Luke Fox or the Lucius Fox family, like all his family members. And there was a scene where Luke becomes Batwing, and I guess Lucius doesn't know that Luke is Batwing.
Oh.
And he had like a gun in his hand, and he put a gun in front of him, and just like like the implications here are staggering, and like the story just like continued, and like what the, but there's always a lot of stuff because Gotham is so crime driven and crime is political.
Yeah.
And with we talk about the racial makeup in Gotham City in these issues, you wonder if there were more black editors or black writers, how that might be investigated. Because you could write a whole book about how criminal justice is appropriated through the lens of the Batman comics. But like, we're only left to wonder because they're just not as often.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, those are all the questions I have on 20. Did you have anything else?
No, I mean, like I said, like these are very straightforward, very simple issues that I think warrants a sort of special issue and not part of the main BTO canon.
Yeah. Okay, well, out of 10 Steph Cass piggybacks, that didn't happen. What would you, piggyback rides, what would you give this issue?
I give it a 7 out of 10.
A 7? Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you kind of see that as low. I think that's like just better than average. It's solid. I don't dislike it, but I think Chuck Dixon's writing doesn't hypnotize me as much as Kelly Puckett's writing.
Sure.
And I know that there are better stories of these two out there,
Yeah.
but I don't dislike it. So it's like, okay, 7.
Yeah, I think I'll equalize it with the last issue and say 8.5 out of 10.
Oh, really?
I think so. I really so remember that my
you're a
biases
shipper, that's
go
why.
toward and my biases go towards Steph. So I didn't necessarily see the coldness as much. I mean, I saw like the standard, like she doesn't want her there, but the read it just reminded me of issue 16, so it just seemed similar. Well, maybe I'll drop it to an 8. How about an 8 out of 10?
Oh, I'm not going to argue with you.
No, I'll drop it a little bit lower. I did have to read this twice because I got a bit muddled in between trying to figure out who Miguel was and how this all worked out together. But then I got back. So
did you think I was going to give these a 10?
That's why when I gasp or make some sort of reaction, it's mainly because you didn't give it a 10. So
I really like 19. So I thought about it, but I was like, I don't want to be abusive.
Gosh. Oh man. Okay. Well, would you like to go on to fired or not fired? Or would you like to do what are you wearing segment, literature recommendation, and then fired or not fired? How would you like to do it?
Host choice. I am merely the pawn in your game.
Okay, sounds good. I think let's do our little segments as a breather, and then we'll just like rev you up again, and then we'll end it. So, so this segment, of course, is the "What Are You Wearing" segment, which only makes sense when you are watching the YouTube video, which you have to for this one. So, Donovan, what are you wearing?
I am wearing a, and these might not top as light, a resplendent, Cowboy Bebop shirt. It is of Spike Spiegel and Faye Valentine. I was even wondering, like, can I walk down with this because Faye's shorts are unzipped and they're really high up, so it's a rather lascivious look, but it's too cool to not wear, maybe in public. But like,
what would Mama Grant say if she saw that?
She didn't say it. She thinks all my shirts are cool.
Okay,
that's why she steals them.
Oh.
So she'll probably be wearing this.
Walks out of the house with your gorilla shirt. And then
she has.
Oh, and then of course you've got your Nightwing hat.
Yes, you were there when I got this, I think in 2017.
Yep. And I've got a Hulk hat that I just got.
Oh.
And I'm wearing a Latin sweatshirt that says Id est quod. Id est.
Oh, is that foul language?
Yes, absolutely. It is what it is. That one.
Nice.
It is what it is. Yeah. So final little segment, literature recommendations. Are you reading anything? I'm not going to participate here because I'm recording this out of order, so it wouldn't make sense for me. I would get boggled. But are you reading anything that you would like to recommend?
Well, I'm about to start. Oh gosh, I purchased Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. I actually purchased that a while ago, and I'm meaning to start it. It's a sci-fi book taking place around 2007 by the famous video essayist Lindsay Ellis. And I want to get this. Last night, you might like this. I bought a new manga, and it is a romance manga.
Oh my!
And it is called We Swore to Meet in the Next Life, and That's When Things Got Weird.
Oh.
And I will read the brief synopsis.
Please.
Love of a lifetime, or two. Long ago, Princess Yuko and her knight Harold fell deeply in love, but their social stations kept them apart. So they swore that in the next life they'd be together. Now reborn in the modern world, Yuko has been searching for Harold for nearly 40 years. Just as she's on the verge of giving up, she finds him, only to discover he's still in high school. Pounding hearts abound in the first volume of this reincarnation age gap rom-com.
Oh my God. Age gap? I thought you hated those things.
He's 17 and she's like 39.
Donovan, I thought you hated the Donovan, betrayed yourself. Oh no. What's Harold gonna say? Real life Harold.
Oh, I'll tell him later.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you. You who hated that Lolita, what was that called? The Silver Swan, Silver Princess. I
Oh,
can't
My
even.
Dark Vanessa.
Yes.
Oh, I hated this. I hated the story on an ethical level because that was abusive, but like
Yeah.
the writing was really good.
Ugh. Okay, yeah. But as long as the writing's okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you heard it here first, folks. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
It's the
we're
last
now
place you'll hear it.
we're now on our final segment. Are you ready for this, people? This is called Fired or Not Fired.
I have a horrible feeling about this.
You should. I've warned him. So I have come up with 13 scenarios. And Donovan has to tell me if the character should be fired or not.
Watching you laugh on this thing is like one of the greatest joys of 2020, by far and away.
I don't know if I'm going to make it. Okay. So, fired or not, but Batman. Should Batman fire them? That's the key. So, you're in Batman's POV. Okay. Lucius Fox, here's the situation. He forgets to install anti-lock braking system on the Batmobile, and Batman crashes while chasing the Joker and someone dies. Should he be fired or not?
Yes. because Lucius, what happened? Oh, I forgot. Now, would that extend to like removing his pension and blacklisting him from Wayne Enterprises and like dethroning him as Wayne Enterprises CEO? I don't know. I mean, is Lucius seriously just not going to do that? Is he just going to like?
He forgets. I don't know.
Yes, you don't know. That's awfully.
He's
awfully
elderly.
lazy.
I don't know what to say.
Middle-aged.
Okay.
That's hard to argue that he shouldn't fire him.
Okay, we'll move on. Alfred Pennyworth. He undercooks Bruce's lobster, which then gives Bruce food poisoning, and he fails to stop a mugging because he's throwing up and someone dies. Should he fire Alfred? And I came up with these at work. I was laughing evilly as I was typing on my laptop.
I thought you were drunk. I am the. Stop right. I'm just imagining him just like dry heaving in the alley, like he's pushing over garbage cans because he can't stop vomiting, and he farts all the way home to the cave. I mean, I guess Alfred can apologize. Well, because you gotta compare. Is that fair to? How does that compare to firing Lucius? Yeah. With Lucius, it's obviously racially motivated.
Oh gosh.
Gosh, that's a tricky one. That's funny. What was it? Lobster Troubadour?
Lobster. Yeah, that's why I did it, because of the Lego Batman.
I'm trying to figure this out.
Oh, I'm glad you're putting thought into this game.
He should. I feel not, because he has a different relationship between Lucius and Alfred. You know, Alfred helped raise him. He's father figure. You know, whereas Lucius, he met far later in life, and he's technically an employee, even though they're friends. My heart tells me no, but I'm sure the Butler contract says yes, but I don't know. I'll say no. Okay. I'll deal with it later.
Tim Drake. He doesn't do routine maintenance on his bow staff, and it breaks while pole vaulting across a gap in the building, and he plummets, leaving Two-Face alone with a victim who dies. Should he be fired?
Everybody dies. How's that his fault? Wait, why did it break in the first place?
He didn't do routine maintenance on his bow staff. Don't question the situation.
I think I should. I think it's my very right. Batman, I'm so sorry. My bow staff, if I tightened it properly, you would say he's fired. Do you have answers? Do you have your own answers for all these?
No. This is for you. I came up with the situations.
Well, some of these are so prejudicial. It's just like, it's like, I'm sorry, I fell on a thing, and I don't know. I feel he shouldn't, but like, I guess I can see a bad writer like, he's fired. um, I'm going to say no because I'm sure the guilt is punishment enough.
Okay. Dick Grayson, he fails to turn off the water in his apartment because he had to run off on a mission, and the water hits some electrical wiring that Bridget Clancy is working on, and she
Hey,
dies.
Batman fires.
Should Batman fire Nightwing?
Yes, because Bridget's awesome. That's insane.
I
That's
didn't say
absurd.
these were realistic.
No,
They're
he
all
didn't.
like, what is that called? Final Destination-esque.
Yeah, like a fire escape, like it lands on her eye. Why am I thinking so hard?
I appreciate
Yes,
that.
because that's stupid.
Okay.
Like, how could you be so moronic?
Okay. Tim doesn't get or gets off the hook, but Dick doesn't. Okay. Barbara Gordon, my girl. A
Well, Tim's
worm.
underage. Go ahead.
Huh? Oh, so a child should be forgiven, but an
But
adult.
like,
Whoa. Okay.
yes.
Okay. I
What is
guess
he going?
criminal justice, we do send them to juvie rather than having an adult sentence.
How long has Nightwing been at this? Like at least 10 years. Like he forgets to
He
turn up a
knows
faucet.
better. That's what your excuse is. He knows better. He should know better.
I know better than do that. This hat knows better than to do that, and it's an inanimate object.
Okay. Barbara Gordon, you ready? A worm from Calculator infects her computer system, causing her to send the team to dense location and not Rachel Dawes. Rachel dies. Should Barbara Gordon be fired?
Wait, okay, wait a minute. So the calculator sabotages her tech,
Yep.
and as a result, they're screwed up.
Yeah.
That is so obviously not her fault. So no, she doesn't be fired.
But shouldn't she have what?
That sucked because you named that system. You prejudiced this question to me. It's so obviously not. But so if I say, "Oh, you're fired," then you're like, you would stop this questionnaire. You're like, "How did she be fired?" She. I mean, like, I want to say yes just to spite you. But that was a villain attack, so it's not her fault. So no.
Okay.
And it's that's the first one that's not anybody's fault.
But she should have had some sort of protection, I would say. Firewalls.
He's a calculator. I mean, he's not like,
Okay. Cassandra Cain, your girl.
My girl.
She goes against Batman's instructions and decides to fight a metahuman who has kidnapped a little girl. Cass dies. Did she get fired posthumously? Posthumously. So at her grave, Batman says, "You're fired."
Like Donald Trump. like Nightwing and Robin are like in business suits, but they have their masks. So she doesn't get a costume case or nothing, even though she like died in battle. No, I guess the Batgirls get special treatment than the guys. Obviously not, because it's like with Damian, right? Damian went off when he went off to fight somebody that he was outmatched and died.
It's true.
Batman didn't fire him. He's like, we're gonna get Talia, who killed my son, who I'm now firing. So obviously not.
Okay. Oh, we're nearly halfway there. Stephanie Brown as Batgirl. It's not spoiler. While waiting for some waffles to finish being made, Steph misses an important call from Batman about a hostage who is closer to her location than everybody else. The hostage dies. Does she get fired? Fired or not fired? She's making waffles.
She's doing
responsible.
She's making waffles. So she has the music all the way up, and like the television's blaring, and she doesn't have her like phone on her, and she's like Cameron Diaz dancing in the kitchen while somebody is getting like dipped in acid, And as she's like licking the syrup off her fingers from finishing her waffles, Batman's like, you're fired, right? But why? Because somebody died and I tried calling you. Boy, is that just well? Wait, why wouldn't that be? Why would I say no?
Uh-oh.
She is so fired. She's fired. She's fired from being Batgirl. She's fired from being Spoiler. You can forget about being Robin.
Oh,
She's
boy.
fired from being Nightwing in the future. She's fired from being Batgirl in that like Smallville season 11 comic book.
Oh, yeah.
She's fired. She's fired from being the Cluemaster's daughter. She's fired. She's
Wow.
persona non grata.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Kate Kane, are you ready for this one? In a drunken night of mischief, Kate and Selena sleep together. Selena
Mischief.
later confesses to Batman, whose heart is subsequently broken. Should Batman fire Kate Kane for breaking his heart?
Yes. You slept with my on again, off again fiance, arch nemesis, who I allowed to commit crimes because she said she'd marry me. Oh, I want to read that issue. And also, well, Catwoman is bisexual.
Yeah, that was like the one pair I was like, this actually totally makes sense. I think I'm not forcing anything here.
I want to see the conversation where it's like, Batman, you must forgive Kate, because he's like, no, I don't. I absolutely super do not.
Oh boy. So Kate is fired on prejudice.
Does Kate's daughter, or I'm sorry, does Kate's father try to appeal?
I didn't see that, no. Or I didn't write it anyways in my little thing. No one dies, but his heart was broken. Batman's.
That's so vindictive. That's so spiteful. And you had to videotape it too. Yes.
Okay.
Fired.
Damian Wayne. Ra's al Ghul has used up all the Lazarus pits and has decided to transfer his consciousness into his daughter's body. Damian prevents this, but it leads to the death of Ra's. Fired or not fired?
Oh, he's not fired because, Damian was saving his mom. And like it's not like Damian like told. It's not like it was Damian. That's Rachel's fault. No. He's that's a clean one. He's not fired.
Okay.
He's got a pat on the back.
Selena Kyle, Isis the cat. I want to be specific on that. And Isis the cat and an unimportant civilian are being held over Gotham River by Clayface, kind of a la Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. He drops them, Clayface, and Selena chooses to save Isis the cat. Fired or not fired?
Actually reminds me of Supergirl.
Oh.
Somebody threw like Wynn and Makad Brooks off the building, and like a third unknown worker. And do you remember that? I do,
yeah.
That's funny. Oh no, previously unknown character. Does Batman fire her for saving her cat?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that'd be funny. I feel that if it was if it was something like No Name, like you or me, he wouldn't. But if it was like Gordon or Alfred, that he would, because Batman doesn't play fair. So I would say that he does not.
Okay. We're winding down. 3 left. Harper Row. Do you remember Harper? Not many people do. While working with Batman, who is inside of a bat mech, she sends off an EMP to destroy the other mech, but it reaches Batman as well, shuts him down, and people die. Should Harper be fired for sending off this EMP?
So she saves the day, but people. Wait, so can you say that one more time?
Sure. While working with Batman, who is inside of a bat mech, so think Pacific Rim, she sends off an EMP to destroy the other mech, so the villain mech, but the EMP actually reaches Batman. She didn't think the radius would be as big. It shuts him down as well, and people end up dying.
Oh, she's so fired.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know this is meant to be fun, but like the criteria for this is like interesting because it's either like just like blunt idiocy, like on Nightwing's part, or very, very, very prejudicial, like Kate Kane's part, or it's something where it's just like what's the excuse to keep them around if they're going if their mistakes cost people's lives in ways which should have been prevented. So like I think it would be character for him to fire her. It's like I'll prove myself, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
So and she's forgotten as a result.
Oh man. Duke Thomas. Duke's parents are infected by the laughing fish. He has the antidote, but can either mass produce it and his parents will die, or save his parents and it will be a month until another antidote can be produced, resulting in casualties. He chooses his parents and people die. Fired or not fired?
That's a good idea for a story.
I mean, a lot of these we could write comics on, frankly.
Yeah, you should be picked to write Batgirl, I think.
Oh, don't I wish?
That's true. I would say Batman would not fire him,
Okay.
and because I can say Batman say like, you know what, I would probably have done the same thing.
Okay.
I think so. I think I can see like the dopey writers like pulling the whole like I resent Duke Thomas, but I think the real Batman would sympathize with him.
Okay. Final one, Ace the Bat Hound. He runs out into traffic to save a child playing with a ball in the street. An oncoming car swerves to avoid him. The child is saved, but a pedestrian on the sidewalk is killed by the vehicle. Should Ace the Bat Hound be fired or not fired?
I'm just imagining that he bricks up his like doggy house in the door. I mean, it's the driver's fault, right? You know, if someone's trying to save somebody, they fail. I like to think so.
Oh, okay. So the driver should just hit Ace.
Hey.
And the kid.
No.
But it swerved to avoid that situation.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I mean,
you know
sure.
What? You know what? You're right. You convinced me, and by that logic, he should be fired.
Okay.
With relish.
With relish. Okay. So you fired a lot of people. So you fired Lucius Fox, Dick Grayson, Cassandra Cain, Stephanie Brown, Kate Kane, Harper, and Ace. That's a heavy percentage.
Was that 5 out of 13?
Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 13.
Really? Gosh.
You are. You're the epitome of the bet jerk. You are the bet jerk. You're just fired.
I feel that like I've just been listening to Batgirl to Oracle too much, and maybe I should stop.
That might be true.
Oh man. Gosh.
I wonder when this started about being fired, because now it's like, and anytime somebody goes against Batman, I'm like, look at this, Donovan. Should they be fired? I always ask that.
This started back during when the Bensons were on Birds of Prey, because that's when the conversation of like, does Batman trust the Huntress was kind of bubbling up, and you and I were having this like tete-a-tete across podcasts, and that was for years now.
Okay. Some things don't die.
The worst part about it was when Harry listened to our episode and says, I agree with Stella. And I was like, you were fired.
Harold. Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. Okay, well, thank you for playing. That wasn't so bad. I actually had fun with that.
That was enjoyable. I thought that was going to be like because you used to have these questions like raisins or grapes. I thought it was going to be like a new thing like that.
Yeah. No, just for you. Can you tell people that are watching where they can support you?
Well, those that are watching, I will say type in With Eyes East, because that is the fresh out the box new YouTube channel for our mutual friend Harold. Shoot. I mean, he started this year, but he has like several episodes in, and he has had more episodes lately. It's very good. He is one of the smartest people I know. He's very witty. He's very funny, and his content is very educational. If you're watching it, you will enjoy it. I know you will. If you're listening to me, you can find Harry and I on Questions We Don't Have Answers.
They really don't.
Where in the midst, since the coronavirus began, we started doing commentaries as a way to kind of finagle discussion. So we have a number of those, and we plan on doing one next episode with the dreaded Stella. And we've announced it. The plan is to do it on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which would be fun. You find us at QNOWesters.com, where we have various episodes discussing socio-political topics. We've talked a lot about the election lately. We have topics on gender. We have topics on race. We have topics on the law. We have topics involving guests and their thoughts on things. And so it's probably the podcast that I want to say I'm most proud of, but then again, I did complete an entire Dragon Ball Z podcast. I don't want to say I'm not proud of that, but I'm very proud of this show.
And you should be. As much
Oh,
as I
thank
rag
you.
on it, I do feel like it is worthwhile, and you ask good questions and you have good discourse. So
I thought you were going to say answers. My heart skipped a beat
no,
when
I
you
was
when you
being
wrote.
actually like what kind and legitimate to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say with the Harold and with Eyes East, I'm going to have a crossover with that at some point. I don't know when, but we're going to do some Ghibli Miyazaki crossover. So
Oh, cool.
you'll be able to, we'll do something over there on his channel, and then he'll come over here and we'll talk about it. But we're still working our way through the films. I've seen more than he has, so he's working his way through. Okay, well, remember you can send any questions or comments to batgirloracle@gmail.com. You can find the show in audio format, Google Play, Stitcher, and Amazon now. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter at Batgirl Subscribe to the show on YouTube, of course, for this uncut version as well as others. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Thanks for coming up with this, for coming on. Now it's getting dark for you. But yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This just happens to be on my tabs.
Oh.
And viewers can see this special content.
Yeah. Okay. Well, until next time.
Fly on, Babs lovers.
Oh, get that garbage out of here.
The real hero of Batgirl Oracle.
No, she pokes people's eyes out when she makes out with them. No one wants that. No one wants an eye patch.
I'm sure Reddit has that image right now.
Oh boy.
Nah, you don't need to say.